Okay, first the answer key. Is the content protected by copyright? So the content at issue here is the song Let's Go Crazy, but specifically it's the composition and lyrics. I think you can hear a few lyrics in there. And you could hear the sound recording, which is owned by Universal Music. Both, of course, are original manners of expression fixed in a medium of expression. So, of course, they're protected by copyright. Which right is at issue here from the bundle of rights? All right, we've got DD wrap, distribute, display, reproduce, adapt, perform. Now, I actually kind of didn't expect you to get this unless you took my 233 class. But when you're talking about music, the right that's almost always at stake is actually performance rights. And it's based on the notion of performing the composition and lyrics. But that performance concept is actually extended to sound recordings. You're performing the recording, essentially. I'm actually doing air quotes as I'm saying this into the speaker. It's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, it's actually a performance right, just FYI. Can Universal Music prove infringement? So to prove infringement, you have to prove substantial similarity and likelihood of access. In any kind of case like this is kind of a no-brainer. It obviously is Prince's song. It's not like there's a question of whether Stephanie Lenz came up with a song that was stealing from Prince's song or something like that. So this is kind of a dumb question to ask because we know what the answer is. And is this a fair use of the content? To answer that, we have to do a fair use analysis. Obviously, we've got purpose of use, the nature of the original, quantity or quality used, and the impact on the market for the original. And two of those, of course, are weighted more heavily: purpose of use and impact on the market for the original. So, purpose of use. We're going to look at Stephanie Lenz's use of the Prince song. Is it commercial or non-commercial? Kind of a no-brainer, right? She has no profit motive whatsoever, and I feel confident in saying that video of Holden will not ever make her any money. Now we turn our eyes from Stephanie Lenz to the actual copyrighted work itself, to the Prince song. You're almost always going to say that this is infringement because anything worth litigating about is going to be a creative work. Quantity or quality used, it's 29 seconds, which if we were talking about sampling, 29 seconds is an insane amount. But here we have to consider the quality. The quality of the sound is so bad that it's almost not recognizable. The traditional way of looking at that is it the best bits of the song? It's not even the best bits of the song. It's a gratuitous guitar solo for most of it. So for that one, even though 29 seconds is a lot for a song, in this particular context, really not so much. Impact on the market for the original. Is this going to hurt Prince's ability to make money with his song Let's Go Crazy? Which I think that song alone, because it's an awesome song, probably could have kept him a millionaire for the rest of his life. Clearly not going to have any impact whatsoever. This is a fair use. So none of you are lawyers, but this was pretty easy, right? Fair use, it's sometimes kind of subjective, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I think in most instances it's a pretty clear case, which is why the argument that Universal made in this case is really interesting. So let me give you the rest of the story. Remember, YouTube had yanked down the video, and Stephanie Lenz had filed a counter notification saying, "Put that back up, please. It's a fair use." Under the DMCA, the rule has been if you file a counter notification, the site has to return your content to its rightful place within 14 days, unless the copyright owner is like, "Oh no, we're going to court if that's the case." 14 days go by, it's not put up. And then more time goes by. And ultimately, she manages to find a champion because, of course, none of us regular people can afford to actually go to court about stuff like this. But there's an organization called the Electronic Freedom Foundation. And stuff like this is kind of its entire purpose for being. So the EFF takes on her case, goes after YouTube, and it only takes 6 months, but 6 months later, her video is reposted. But in the meantime, EFF has a lawsuit going based on the argument that Universal violated the DMCA by issuing a takedown notice on something that was clearly fair use. In other words, by issuing a takedown notice on something that was not copyright infringement. And this raises a pretty interesting question. Does the copyright owner need to actually figure out whether something's fair use or not? Universal argued no. Copyright owners can't possibly be required to evaluate the question of fair use prior to sending a takedown notice. So that was their argument. Went up to a U.S. district judge who ruled that yes, copyright owners must consider fair use. Now again, this all happened between 2007 and 2008. For the next 6 or 7 years, Universal filed motion after motion after motion because they did not want this argument to go to a higher court. But of course, in the meantime, things have kind of shaken out the way they've shaken out on YouTube. Back then in 2007, remember, they were yanking stuff down left and right. Today, as you guys I'm sure know, they don't yank stuff down as much. It still does sometimes happen, but sometimes you will instead just see a link to YouTube or Amazon or something go up, like if you have copyrighted music on your video. And in fact, for some of my stuff, I've gotten the notification that they have recognized through the power of digital technology. They know the instant that I upload it if I have something copyrighted in it. So they recognize what they call is matched third-party content. In other words, like, we know that you actually are using something that is copyrighted, but that's as far as they go. But that hasn't always gone my way. That, however, is for another screencast.